Hi, everybody. Welcome to Sideline Shenanigans. My name is Bryan Jones. I have Mount Vernon in Fortville, Indiana, head football coach Vince Lidy.
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 Lidy,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, coach. What inspired you to become a football coach?
Well, it honestly probably started off when I was growing up. My dad was the head football coach at Castle High School, so it was pretty much all I grew up with. And as I went through, I don't know exactly. I grew up in it, and I played a lot of sports, and a lot of football was the sport that I played the most. And I think all the coaches and some of the people that I worked with, um, as I was growing, in high school getting coached by him, but then I was, try to help him in the summer, and then in college getting coached by, and different, really great coaches, great men. And then as I started to finalize a direction during college of where I wanted to go, working with some, as I was branching out into the going to schools or trying to work some camps, student teaching, things like that. Working with some other good coaches in the high school, kind of solidified my where I wanted to go, and so I kind of had a plan, in the back of my mind where that I'd like to eventually be a head coach. Took a little bit longer probably than I initially probably had planned out, but things happen, and but it's been a rewarding career to this point. It's been a lot of fun, and continue to try to build a program and do things that my focus is trying to make football the best part of our players. I want it to be a great experience, and the best part about one of the best things about their high school career.
Okay. I like that. How did your playing days influence your decision to coach?
Well, I think we had I saw how the program I grew up in when my dad was when he was in charge of was really respected and very good. One of the good things was, we had success in high school. I was part of a really strong senior class, and a bunch of good athletes, football players, number one, but then just a bunch of good, and they're a bunch of good guys to this day, and then competitors and multi-sport athletes, a lot of us. And then we had success, winning a state championship, and then you kind of you take all the there's a lot of things that go, people say it all the time about the life lessons you learn outside of or in school or in sports or in extracurriculars, and those just continue to show up every day. And then going into college, playing football in college, and seeing how being part of where I could way back how football was changing or how much different it is at the college level. Not, and again,
Mhm.
the players are great, but it's the amount of how practices were structured and training and getting, um, you start to really experience what the best in the world. Well, what I at the time was college, but it's only increased at the next level, and then then you start seeing that it just trickles down, and then able to get that when I started working in high school. Trying to make it a great experience and use all the successes, the failures that I've had, to pass on to my players.
Okay. Where'd you play at for
And
college?
I went to Indiana University and played for Bill Mallory and Coach Cam Cameron.
You went to IU. That's
Yep.
impressive. That's impressive. Where did your coaching career begin?
Um, I was fortunate when I got out of college, through was able to start my first job was up at Hamilton Southeastern up in Fishers, and I joined. They were 5A. I just started, became 5A at the time, and so I was able to get in with that staff and that school in the year 2000. And head coach at the time was Rob Cutter, who just got inducted a couple years ago in the Indiana High School Hall of Fame. Who has and he's a Noblesville guy. Went to Butler, then he got he was learned under legendary high school coach Chuck Stevens. So I was fortunate to get, and then the staff he had was really, really good. And so I was in an unbelievable spot being a young guy with some really good coaches around me, and they had a lot of success at Hamilton Southeastern, and I was there um, all the way. I started the August of 2000, and my last season on their sidelines was in 2017. And then I went down to be an assistant at Mount Vernon with head coach Mike Kirshner, who's another Indiana High School Hall of Fame guy. So I've been fortunate enough to be around a lot of good football mentors or head coaches, men in my time.
Okay, okay. What was your first year as a head coach like?
2021, it was great. I've been on the staff with the Mount Vernon, and we were 4A. We're still 4A. We'd had a, we I've flipped over from coaching offense for a long time at HSE. Went to defense, and then when Coach Kirshner went back to his home school of Warren Central, I was fortunate enough to get the head coaching job, and we had a really good senior class of unbelievable players and hard workers and great individuals. And we stumbled in game one against Noblesville, and then we ripped off 14 straight wins en route to we won the 4A state title that year. And I guess one of the things that we quietly did was we led the state in offensive scoring that in this point scoring. It helps to play 15 games, but we had a dynamic offense, and it was a really, really good year. A lot of things lined up for us, and we navigated any adversity. The kids handled it well, and it was a great year. And we keep striving for to do things to get another shot at that at some time.
Okay, coach. Now we're going to talk about your father, Hall of Fame coach. What did your father teach you about coaching?
Well, I think the one thing he did was, how the longevity of it was of having a plan, and then just having kind of he was, and again, football has changed. The calendar year has changed dramatically since he was a head coach. But the fact that he was a head coach for 30 years, and the success he had, it pretty much came down to having a plan. And he first, and staying with that. Okay, they plan out their year, and he pushed multi-sport athletes across the board. And then he had, it's amazing the success. I look back all the success that he or Castle had, and I never thought anything about it when I was a player. Didn't care, but that he did it with very few coaches. He had some unbelievable assistant coaches, and they had really good rapport. He had good guys around him. So and again, when I got out of it, when I started coaching, I started reflecting on things that up in this Marion County area where I'm at now, big staffs. You've got we had great resources at Castle, but again, we were tucked way down in the southwestern part of the state. And again, I never thought about it until I was coaching. But the amount of things, the success and what they did with, being 5A or whenever they made the progression 3A to 4A to 5A, usually one of the smaller schools, as you played through the tournament, and never made excuses. Just every year, here's our plan. We're going to put work in. This is my philosophy. Sometimes I would probably tell him toward the end there when he was still coaching, like, you got to be, you ever thought about doing some this and that? He's like, well, if I was younger, maybe, but some of those things were, again, and then you try to make it where at the end of every year that's over, you've exhausted your options. You've done what you can with what you have. And then every year it's a little bit better than the year before in terms of the whole program. And so, he had a long run. So 30 years, it's amazing. You don't see many head coaches anymore with that many years of being a head coach. And so if I get to a third or half of that, that'll be great.
Absolutely. Coach, do you ever feel pressure living up to your father's reputation?
I I think it could be it's there. I don't necessarily I don't lose sleep over it. And again, he'd be first one to say if he were here, like you got to do your own thing. You just can't, you've got to find your own way, and you've got to be able to make some. Things have changed with with high school and the rules and football and the amount of stuff we can do. You just got to, there's a lot of change. So I just want to. My goal is again try to do things the right way, and I lived that and saw that. And my hopes would be is if he were if he were to stop by, if he were around, still alive and were to stop by one time, he could sit there and see and be like, all right, this, I could see my own kid, playing for this guy. And so, that's what we try to do with our program and our coaches, is we try to make it a good experience. And we try to make it the best part of what kids can be involved in and make it a big deal. And we'll keep doing it. We keep trying to add a few things that are relative important for football and the game of football. And so I just keep trying to do the things the right way, and then we'll go out and try to put our best product on the field in the fall.
How do you honor his legacy through your own coaching?
Well, I kind of, we try to strive to be in like, and again, he prided his teams for a long time. And again, when I was part of it, but a couple things were being, they always prided themselves. Castle would be physically that, they were kind of, especially down in southwestern in southern Indiana, they were kind of leaders in the weight room department. And then, physical football, first thing out of, every year would be, again, I was a player, but I'm sure in his coaches meetings, it was, we're going to run the ball, we're going to stop the run. And that's what we did. And when I played. So, and that really hasn't changed at all, especially when you get into tournament football in Indiana. So my goal is we're going to try to go out and, we're going to be physical. We're going to be able to tackle. We're going to stop. I mean, every year I say the same things, that we're going to try. We got to be able to run the ball, stop the run. We got to be physical, especially with some of the teams in our conference, and then who we got to beat to win the sectional. And as you move further in the playoffs, and again, the other thing would be is doing it the right way. Those, there's some guys that are still coaching that his teams competed against, and they had massive, really good battles, good games. And so my goal is that would be, we're able to, we're going to go in and give on Friday night and give the team that we're playing the best look we got. And at the end of the game, we'll see what the scoreboard shows.
What do you remember most about watching him coach?
I'd say one thing it's that he probably, and again, I don't have a lot of memories when he was younger, but as he got older, he never got too high, never got too low, stayed pretty much even keel. Um, I'm pretty much either kind of even keel or, jumping around like, some probably losing my mind or being too excited sometimes for what he would do. But again, that's just me and my personality. But that's what kind of how I remember when he was on the sidelines, and especially when you get up there in years, it's hard to jump around anymore. That's why you got to hire young coaches. They can be those guys that can have that extra juice. And heck, one of my goals is just to get through Friday night. I don't need to get hurt jumping around doing anything, because I've heard the stories of coaches as they get older, things don't move as well. So. But that's one thing he was pretty much toward the end. I mean, he was pretty much even keel. Now, internally, it might not be that, but on the outside, he never, he never was, kind of like probably opposite of me on some games.
Okay, Coach. How did he inspire others both on and off the field?
Well, again, being part of a community and program down in, when we grew up. So he started coaching at Castle in the late '60s, and once he became the head coach in the mid '70s, and then all the way through I think 2012. I remember right. I'm trying to go quick on my brain here, but just being, he's in the school, and again, it's kind of like these other coaches you're going to talk to, or you've talked to some of them that have been in some schools for 20 plus years. And you multiply that by the amount of players that they have coached, that they've gone through. And then, maybe and sometimes you start coaching their kids. And so, growing up, being a part of that community for such a long time, you saw a lot of players, and just being in high school. And as Castle grew, impacted a lot of people because, he had them in the classroom until he retired from teaching as well.
Okay, okay. What is your core coaching philosophy?
Oh, the, my core coaching philosophy is on in terms of on offense would be I'm going to put it out there that we're going to be run the football and you got to be physical. And on defense, you got to be able to stop the run and you got to be physical. And in special teams, you've got to find somewhere to gain an edge on special teams. And so we kind of build our program around those things to start, and then we go from there. And then probably on the one word that might be I could probably put in all three phases would be either attack or aggressive. We are going to try to be the aggressor in those three phases, and how we structure our offense, our defense, and our special teams to try to we want to dictate as much as we can on Friday, um, every play, and not be on our heels or be the ones waiting for something to happen.
Okay, coach, how do you build trust with your players?
Well, you got to put them in spots. We plan out our calendar, and you put them in spots to do work out and train. And the one thing we do and again, I promote multi-sport athletes as much as anybody. So the trust really for us begins. Football really takes precedent in the summer. So the trust starts going when we start our summer workouts. Would be all right. Here's the calendar. Here's the summer program. And again, we can't require. It's the expectation is you need to be. You should be there. The calendar's posted and sent out months in advance, and we have there's certain days and weeks off per the IHSA and our school corporation. What we're doing this year, so you start putting them in spots where, again, especially the older players, they got to be able to get there and they've got to take care of business and they got to show up. And then you start by building practice, building and instruction, doing installation instructions, and then eventually you got to be able to put them out there on the field. And so it's kind of where it's to me, that they've got to get, we just don't, they got to get there and we got to get there. We're going to be there. They got to get there and then they got to get, put it out there and put it on the line.
What's your approach to developing underclassmen?
That's a great question. We're huge on development year round. So my goal is at Mount Vernon that we have my goal is it's going to happen at some point. My goal is between 30 and 40 players start as freshmen. And then that's going to build, and hopefully that I would love for it to stay all four levels and be at 120. We're not quite there. We're not there yet, but it's coming. We got massive numbers in the junior high. So our goal is to get our numbers up, and between the weight room workouts and our calendar, we want kids in the weight room or competing. We want them competing in multiple sports. I want kids playing basketball, wrestling in the winter, running track, playing baseball in the spring. But at the same time, I want them. They need to be in the weight room with our strength coach or coming to the after school if they're not playing a sport. And the
Mhm.
goal is if we can start that and we start stuff in junior high in the winter time and the spring, we bring junior high kids over. Our goal is that they start training in the weight room. And again, I could care less about max numbers. I want them to learn how to move and start to work and build themselves into better, stronger, more powerful, faster athletes. And so then we'll start doing our allowed football, what we're allowed to do per the rules, and we start working on fundamentals and doing things. We don't run not plays. We are learning individual position fundamentals, and all the sessions we're allowed. And then in the summertime, we just continue to stack those reps. And then
Okay.
when we get into the August camp, we'll start August official practice. Then we'll take a couple steps back and we'll start all over. I don't believe at all in trying to win the state championship in the summer. It might be that might be a downfall that I have in terms of how I plan the summer. Um, I still believe you've got to be able to get better and improve throughout the year. I have noticed, and I've some of our best players this year are going to be seniors and juniors play high level. They're baseball players in on our team and track. If our kids in our spring sports have a really good postseason run, they could they may not be around till mid June. So again, I always think about just stacking those days, developing, and then we're going to push
Mhm.
summer to get. We're going to work in. We're going to continue to. We'll start doing installation, and then we will circle back to it and kind of almost start back over with more team aspect stuff when August comes around, when the official start of season. And again, that's my own. It might be my downfall that I don't want to peak. I'm not trying to win a championship in July, and so I'm I'm okay with us not looking very good in July.
Absolutely. What's the most rewarding part of coaching for you?
A couple things are that I like is um, uh, I love to see I love to see the development and the success of our players as they get better. Um, like for example, in 2000 last fall, 2024, our record was 4-6 at the end of the year. We got beat by New Palestine in the sectional game one. But other than and again, it's football, and you're not going to win every play. That
Mhm.
game that game was one of our. I was proud because we played unbelievable. Our players played with unbelievable effort. We played as well as we had played all year. The scoreboard might not have shown it, but we went out there and statistically wise, it was the best defensive effort that any team put up against New Pal all year. And so that was game one of the sectional. Our kids played their hearts out, and it was rewarding because at the end of the game, I was like, "You guys, there was no woulda, coulda, shoulda, if, and, or but. You did everything you were asked, and we just came up short. And you can't. That happens, but that happens in jobs and life and whatever. I love to see that part. That they get better, the development of that. Um, the end of the year, the experience. Looking back, did they have? Did we do a good job with putting them in spots to be successful? The players, um, again, uh, seeing especially the seniors and the upperclassmen develop, and then taking ownership of their program. Again, the goal of it is, and I'm going to talk to our seniors coming up, that times, there's more and more coming out, but um, is your team a coach led team or a player led team? And then, we've got to figure out how to get the coaches where our job is to, we know it's high school players, but at some point, the seniors and the juniors and the guys, they've got to take ownership for that. So again, that's part of that. Um, and then I enjoy the coaching camaraderie with the guys the coaching staff that I have, really good guys. We try to have some fun, and we try to stay grounded, and we at the end of the day, the whole point of our week is by the time we start our week, we all of our arrows got to be pointing the same way. And, we can agree to disagree on a Sunday, but by the time we roll around Monday and we get to Friday, the game plan and the machine, what we're doing is we're all going the same direction. And the guys do a really good job. And we wouldn't be anywhere as a team or a program if it wasn't for my assistant coaches.
What are your hobbies outside of football?
Wow, hobby wise. Well, now that we're in the springtime and summer, I don't know if it's a hobby, but I get my son and we go out and he mows a couple yards, trying to get him to learn how to work and do some physical, be out, do some physical stuff. It's okay to work. I like being outside anyway. If I can get over to my mom's house, I like taking my kids and going fishing. No problem throwing out I can sit on the dock or the bank. I could throw it out there for a couple hours and enjoy it. And then I try to get in I try to stay active, get some workouts in throughout the week. It's a little bit easier when the weather gets better, but we're all stuck inside in winter, so I can go down to my basement, do some things like that, and then I try to find a way to read some books in the wintertime. And then on any kind of summer moratorium, like our summer moratorium, if we go on a trip, especially to the beach, I always try to take a book or two to try to find ways to, do some, find a way to improve or make our program better, make myself better. And then spend a lot of time with my family. We have a lot of fun as well. So I try to stay busy with those things outside of football.
Okay. What's your favorite food?
My favorite food? Oh, man. I really don't have a favorite food that I go to anymore in terms of like as I'm getting older. I tell you one thing I do enjoy if I can. I enjoy breakfast. So if I ever get the chance, I can't go wrong going to a local place in Fortville. I may go to a breakfast place in Fortville or somewhere and get. I love getting breakfast, so that's one thing I do like, especially with a big cup of coffee. I'll never complain about that. And then and I will get out the grill. I'll get out the flat top grill this summer, and my wife will get some stuff, and we'll start cooking up some shrimp. And then she and I will eat some shrimp, and then I'll make some burgers and things for the kids. But pretty simple.
Okay. Do you have a game day like meal that you like to eat? Is it like a ritual for you or?
No, probably when I was younger, I might have had some. I might have had some of those. I don't know. You want to call them superstitions, rituals, habits. It doesn't. No, nothing bothers me. When I was younger, I used to go and eat, and then if it was a home game, I'd hop on a stairmaster and get a workout in just to sweat and whatever. When I was younger, I had too much energy to burn, I guess. But now it's I just go and we have our team meal. I eat, go out and go through the game. Nothing really. No, I've got I usually have my shorts on, various no certain pair of shorts, and if it does rain and we have a monsoon coming like last year against Pendleton Heights, I'll wear my rain suit. But nothing too. As I've gotten older, that stuff doesn't matter.
Okay, Coach, I'm gonna ask some schedule specific questions here.
All right.
How do you feel about this year's schedule?
This year's schedule, 2000. It's going to be It's going to be a tough one. We start off, and again, and I've got no problem doing this. We start off with Noblesville. They're a 6A program, game one, and then we play Franklin Community. They're a 5A program, game two, and then we jump into our Hoosier Heritage Conference right off the bat with Greenfield and New Pal. So our first four New Palestinians, game four. Our first four games are. Man, they're slobber knockers right off the bat. Now, our scrimmage is against Perry Meridian, and they're a 6A. And scrimmages, people will say they don't, They don't. Some of them people don't like them, but here's my point: when we go play Perry Meridian in the scrimmage, that's a 6A program that has a lot of human beings out there on their football field. They rotate. They rotate 11 on offense, 11 on defense. They have another 11 on offense, another 11 on defense. Well, we do this. Our 11 on offense, we'll do like 7 plays. Then we'll put our 2s out. Half of those offensive number ones for us are the number ones on defense. So, it's just a numbers game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any. I mean, I love our schedule. Now, here's why I like it. At some point, and I don't. It could be because if we have an unbelievable successful year, at some point Mount Vernon's going to be 5A, either based on enrollment or success factor. Whatever happens first, we'll find out. But Mount Vernon's growing rapidly. The school. We are going to be in the 5A division when they realign at some point. So I've been saying it for my vision is we have to get the program ready for 5A. When you get into 5A and 6A, you're dealing with programs that most of them have huge numbers. And like when we play Franklin Community, they jog on 11 on offense. They jog off 11 on, they have a new 11 that come in on defense. Half of our kids play both ways, especially
Mm-hmm.
our best ones. And in special teams, we have more kids out there that have been playing. Sometimes those schools can jog. That's their 2. That might be their number 2 defense because they just have more people. Say you've got 2,000 kids, you got 1,000 boys. If you break it up 50%, so the 2025, and I think last year I don't know how I don't know how they figure it out, but we had in 4A, we had the toughest strength of schedule for all public schools in 4A. And so this year's going to be no different. And then our schedule will change dramatically in 2026 because we'll be getting a new game 1. We'll be picking up a new game 2. And we've got to try to find a game 8. So 2026, and that's a long way away. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm not an athletic director, but I know athletic directors like to get schedules figured out sooner rather than later. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Absolutely. What do games against 5 and 6A teams do for your program?
Well, they really paint they're a great visual of where we have to be able to get to number wise, and the philosophy. I would love to have the numbers that you could quote unquote to platoon. We could split our practices. We could have like when I was at HSE toward the end, we almost had an hour and 15 minutes of the offense was on one end, the defense was on the other, and we didn't hardly have any players go both ways. Well, we split our practices 50-50 every day. Some of them have a little bit more offensive emphasis and then defense one day, but our players we may not go a lot of 2-way. We may try to, when it's early in August and September, it's unbelievably hot. The sun stays up. We know at the end of the year, our best players, if they can play 2 ways, they're not coming off the field. And so it's one of those things where we see those programs and those numbers. That's where we need to get to. And then I continue to push the development of it with those schools and how they set up their day and their year. Most of those 5 and 6A programs, their football players are all in the weight room together during the year, lifting weights every day or every other day with their teammates in the weight room. We don't have that yet. And when you're that's huge. Because you get to see your kids exponentially on a regular basis throughout the year. And so we're really got to, it's good to see that. And it's great competition. And, it doesn't do, I am not I don't believe in it. And I am fine with playing those teams. It may not look, if we lose we've lost those games, 0-2 or 1-1. we play those tough teams. Our record may not be great, but we don't have to beat those guys in the sectional.
Mm-hmm.
It just shows you there's great competition, and we've got to continue to improve to get to where we want to go.
Okay, Coach. How do you handle rivalry games between New Pal and Greenfield Central?
They're big. Everybody, it's unbelievable environments. We Greenfield, Greenfield has got us the last 2 years. We've not they've done a he's had Coach Nolte's done a good job, and so that they've got the better of us on those 2 games. And New Pal's got a trophy between the schools, and we won it. We beat them in 2020 and 21, and then outside of and then they've got the best of us. It's 2022 and on. They've knocked us out of sectionals when they're in 4A. So it's just big. And again, those games happen so early in the season in August or early September that, again, if we are peaking and making that the Super Bowl or that's our state championship, we're in trouble because we have a lot of football left. And again, we'll circle back around them, and we don't really circle any dates on the calendar with our schedule. You can't look ahead, and so we wake up on Sunday, we game plan we meet as coaches, and it's all about Friday, and we'll start the next game the week on that Sunday because there's no way you can look past Noblesville, who is a monster 6A program. Hey, we're going to get ready for Franklin as well. No, can't do that. We got to take care of Noblesville first. And, they got a new head coach and a lot of new staff. And they're going to be, they're coming to our place this year. So we will have our hands full and more game one.
Absolutely, absolutely. Which game stands out as the biggest test this year?
Personnel-wise, with players coming back, I think the most impressive team right now on our schedule is going to be New Palestine. They are their current junior class, which will be seniors. They are talented. They are big, strong, and physical. The players in that class. That game itself is going to be they're going to be to me they are the team to beat in 5A right now. Again, we played as good as we could play, and we put an unbelievable defensive performance up against them. Held them to 21. They only scored 21 points in our sectional game. They had a pick 6, so they had 28 on the scoreboard. But we did things that nobody else did, and we emptied everything we had at them. And all those kids are coming back. So that hurt that they lost. That helped them win a state championship other than their wideouts. Offensively, they're going to be, and defensively, they're going to be really, really good. But Noblesville, I know nothing. I know Coach Hebert from Carmel did a great job at Carmel. The facility and the resources they have and the amount of players in their program, we're going to see it game one right off the bat. And then I just found out that Franklin, we play them game 2. I couldn't read the article, but I saw a post on the Indy Star. They have a very talented offensive or defensive lineman who just committed to Indiana University. So they're going to be a challenge. So off the bat, oh man, right off the bat, we're jumping right in the fire pit. So we'll be ready. It's great. I love it. We're going to be. I don't have any. We don't duck anybody, and we'll go out and play, and see what happens.
Okay. Coach, where do you see the program going? Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Well, I'd love to still be at Mount Vernon in 5 years. I've been working really, really hard. I've got a good committee with me in the youth program, and we've got huge numbers. Again, I'm hoping they stay in the program. We've got huge numbers coming. We've done a really good job of continuing to upgrade our football equipment and when I take the yearly calendar. So, like this year, we're getting Guardian caps. Every player in our program, grades 3 through 12, they're going to be wearing Guardian caps on their helmets. We are trying to take football, at Mount Vernon to the highest level of an experience and doing everything to make football great and a lot of fun. So I'd love to be at Mount Vernon, and continue to ride this wave as it gets bigger. I think within 2 years, I think Mount Vernon will be 5A based on enrollment and the classifications, either by enrollment or success factor, whatever comes first. So it's a fun time. It's really really a lot of fun, especially when you're growing to handle that growth. And then we'll be put into some, who knows, uncharted territory with 5A in terms of
Mhm.
football, because Mount Vernon's never been in 5A.
If you could say anything to your younger coaching self, what would it be?
Oh man, you got some really good questions. Um, I guess if I go back and tell myself, and I had to experience it, now I would have said just be patient, because I went through a phase where I was applying and trying to advance my coaching career, and things never happened. And so, I'm fortunate enough to get a chance um, to be a head coach. So I'm going to make the most of it now. I would just tell myself, be patient. And I end up, I had an unbelievable time where I was and learned a lot. And I will say this, that I probably, if I sit here now just talking to you, the one thing I probably would tell myself at HSE way back is when I got to Hamilton Southeastern, they were growing massively. Well, I wish I would have probably somehow, if I could tell myself back then, get with Coach Cutter and figure out how to handle the growth at the younger levels, or what we should have, because we're doing things now kind of flying by the seat of our pants, because the growth has been it's so big, and it's been a lot of
Mhm.
work, and we've done unbelievable things right now in our youth program. But here I am now, 20 years later, 23 or 5 years later, when I got up here, and Mount Vernon, we're not growing at that rate yet, but we are growing rapidly. So I'm just way older than what I was back then, but we're doing all we can. And, we're gonna find ways to make football great here in Mount Vernon, in our community, and hopefully continue to ride the wave.
Okay, Coach. My final question for you tonight is, if you, if what would your best advice be to an incoming freshman? What would your best advice be?
All right. Well, this is great. It's another great question, because next week I'm going over to my middle school, and I'm going to hand out my calendars and things for the freshmen. So, and again, we talk about things, and I'm going to talk about things with our seniors. A couple things I'm going to tell these incoming freshmen. Number one is you show up. You need to show up and get in. We take attendance. Get in. We talk. You see it all the time. The man in the arena. The Theodore Roosevelt quote. You need to get in there and start. We're going to start working out, and we're going to start competing. With that, compete. You got to get in there and you got to compete for your spot. And football is hard. I think football in high school, football is one of the last hard things high school kids can do. And here's why I think football is hard. Football is physical, and in football, you got to push back. Like we grow. Everybody now, kids don't. We don't. There's not. People aren't real physical. Kids don't know how to handle, going out and going toe to toe with somebody, where everybody's worried about getting hurt, but you got to be able to push back. It's going to get hard. We're going to push you in terms of physical preparation. We try to do a really, really good job of preparing our kids physically and not doing anything. We don't waste any reps with dumb stuff that we think doesn't help us.
Mhm.
But you got to get in there and compete, and then you got to be coachable. And you got to be able to. We're going to try to find spots. And again, kids are high school football players are going to develop and change as they get older. But you got to. I'm going to tell them next. I'm going to give them calendars, and here are the expectations. And I don't care what you did in junior high in terms of your record, your position. Um, everybody's growing. You're going to get faster. You're going to get bigger. You're going to get stronger. We've got to continue your youth league and your junior high success or records don't dictate anything in high school. And so I'm going to go see those guys next week. And then and then once I'm done with what I'm going to tell them, once they're done with freshman football, they got three options: go play basketball, go wrestle, or three options. They can swim for Mount Vernon, go play a sport, or they're going to get in the weight room and they're going to do our football, our winter workouts. So, we ask a lot, but all we ask for our kids is effort, showing up and giving effort. That's all we ask. A little bit of sweat equity, and the old phrase, hard work works. We're not doing stuff that's we're not trying to make up stuff that's hard. We're just trying to learn to work and do things the right way. And I'm going to go see them on Tuesday, I hope, and hopefully I'm going to hand out 40 calendars and get 40 kids, because there are a ton of our junior high kids are running track right now and playing baseball, which is great. Love it. And then we'll crank it up the first Tuesday in June. That'll start our summer workouts.
All right, Coach, I want to thank you for coming on. My name is Bryan Jones. He's Vince Lidy. Thank you for listening.